You ever supposed to be doing work and then you start looking at other people's Twitches and then you go to your phone and start looking at TikTok and then you go back and forth, and then you realize an hour and a half has gone by and you still haven't created a YouTube video? Yeah, that's probably just me. But hey guys, I'm here actually making the video now, which I'm quite happy about. Today is going to be a shorter video about how I think I know the most balanced killer in Dead by Daylight. Now, so many of you are going to disagree with me. I guarantee you that. And this is my personal opinion on what I think is the most balanced killer. Now, there are a lot of killers in Dead by Daylight. I think 41 or 42 to be exact. So there's a lot to look at, and there's a lot to think of balancing-wise. And no, it's not a purely M2 killer, and no, it's not a purely M1 killer. It is kind of a mix of both. Now, you might be thinking, oh gosh, who is a mix of both? Trickster can M1 and M2. Huntress can do the same, but more of like an M2. Maybe it's the Unknown. I mean, he is semi-M2 killer, and he can be an M1 killer. He's kind of cool. But no, not the Unknown. Not any of those killers that you're thinking of. It's going to be a very niche killer that you don't see played very often. Like, not a lot of people play this killer whatsoever. And no, it's not the Knight. The Knight's not very fun. The Knight is like an M2, but he's not really an M2 most of the time. I have to say, it is the Lich. And not the first, the Lich. So the true Vecna from D&D. This guy, I think, is one of the most balanced killers in Dead by Daylight. And some of you might disagree with me. And I think you might disagree with me because you don't play against the Lich very often. And a lot of people don't play against him enough to realize he can be very fun to play against and play as. And you might think, well, Aiden, just because they're fun doesn't mean they're balanced. Well, I think it kind of does. I think fun has to be on the balance list because if you're not having fun against this killer or fun playing as this killer, it's kind of like, it's kind of like not enjoyable. And I think he is very fun whilst being like truly balanced. Reason being is his kit is very nice. It is a very strong kit for loops and tiles, and it is very fun to mind game the tiles as him and playing against him. He has a mage hand that he can lift up a tile, like a pallet, I should say. And he also has skeletons that he can use on pallets or just on different points of elevation to get injuries. And a lot of better survivors will crouch, a lot of better survivors will know the mage hand, but there is constant mind games with his kit. Now, new players that might have not faced him as much or are not as used to him might just say, what, he could just lift the pallet and I'm dead. Well, if you know you're facing a Lich and you play enough games against him, you will start to get the hang of what pallets are good to greed, what you can outgreed if he uses Mage Hand on it, and whatnot. I have to say, though, that I think a lot of survivors love playing against this killer. I really do. At least I love playing against this guy because he's so much fun. You can fight back against him as well. That's another part which I think makes him balanced and more enjoyable for survivors to go against. He has a tiny little side objective you can do as survivor, which is open chests around the map. And not just your regular chests, but these magical chests that have magical items in them. And now, fun tip about these magical items is that the two best ones are the sphere and the mage hand one. But all the magic items give you a little bit of information about the killer, and it tells you where he is in the map, what stuff he's using. It's really, really cool. I do think that really adds to the balance part because it makes survivors feel like they have like a leg up on them, and honestly, a lot of the times that they do when they have these magical items. If I use Mage Hand as the Lich, and they have that magical item, Mage Hand, whatever it's called, whenever I use Mage Hand, they get 7% haste. And that's kind of cool, and it makes it so you can greed these pallets safely and make sure that you can actually get stuff done. Now, there are tons of other magical items to fight against this kit, because he has a Dispelling Sphere. And this Dispelling Sphere, if you've seen it in the game, is a large orb that he can send out in a certain direction that gets larger as it goes and a little bit faster. If it hits you, it scans you and says, here's a heartbeat, and it lets the killer know that you're there. It also silences your magical items, so he can kind of counter you back. So it's not like just the survivor, if they do this one thing, they just counter you in like infinitely. Like they can't just get the magical items and you can't fight it back against it. It's like thinking of it as Freddy. I don't enjoy Freddy. You want to know why? Because it is one of the most easiest killer powers to avoid. All you have to do is, if you're not in chase or anything like that, you take a clock and you wake up and you avoid literally all of his abilities, and he's an M1 killer for that allotted amount of time. It is kind of depressing. That's why I like the Lich. The Lich, at least I can use the Dispelling Sphere and make it so their magical items cancel out. The thing is, fun fact as well, you cannot cancel out the legendary items, like the Mage Hand. No, not the Mage Hand. Like his Vecna's Hand and his Eye. But also, the survivors should not equip those items because you can get moried on second hook if you have those items. It's not great to do that, I'll be honest. I don't recommend. Anyways, I think he is a very fun killer to play as and play versus, and I think he provides a lot of balance to the game. And on top of his Mage Hand, his Skeletons for damage, and his Dispelling Sphere for information, he has mobility. And a lot of killers right now lack mobility. And if you lack mobility, you're not going to be successful in games, and you will not enjoy yourself. I think it is a very balanced mobility thing as well. He can use it quite often, but not too often as if you're Blight or your Nurse. He does have a cooldown on it, and it's not insane. I don't think he can't take one add-on to lessen the cooldown, but I mean, it's a niche add-on, and even so, even if he gets less of a cooldown on it, it's not going to be game-changing for him. He can use his Fly and Chase, which I really do like. Like, he could use it on pallets, on windows, as he can use his Mage Hand on that and his Skellies. It just makes the game much more enjoyable and, like, more mind games. I'm all here for thinking. Like, the survivor's thinking, I'm thinking, and it's an endless idea of, like, what are they going to do next? What spell is he going to cast? Is he going to bait the Skeletons and then use Mage Hand? Is he just going to use Mage Hand, not even use Skeletons? There are so many things you can do, and it's always a good time. I promise you that. And I might be a little... I don't know. I might just love him a little bit much because I literally just have so much fun on this killer, and I made it to a very high streak on him at one point, 147. But I do think he is one of the most balanced killers in Dead by Daylight. Do you guys disagree with me on that? I mean, he doesn't have too aggressive of a kit, I would think, for pallet play. You can outplay some of the stuff, and you don't necessarily need the magical items. You really don't. You can force him to take more time if you pre-drop pallets against him, so it can be a little bit more difficult for him to use Mage Hand during chase, or you can try and outplay his Skeletons, and maybe he outplays you with it by baiting the sound. There's so many things to do. There's so many things to think about. I think it constantly keeps the game going. It's not a slow game either. He can fly and catch you right away and just see where people are. Like, it's fast-paced, it's enjoyable, it keeps on going, and there's a ton of things he can do with the kit. I think that's all is what's needed for a balanced killer. Now, he's not too oppressive either when it comes to tunneling or when it comes to, getting instant downs like Nurse or Blight. Like, he doesn't have that potential unless someone severely messes up. But that goes for any killer, keep it in mind. So, this is my take. This is my take on the most balanced killer in Dead by Daylight. I would love to know if you guys have other opinions on what you think is the most balanced. Like, I know some of you are going to say probably maybe Unknown, some of you could say. And I would agree with you. I think Unknown is a very, very balanced killer. And I've come to realize that over time, he could use slight buffs, maybe, but still, I think he is fairly strong. In the right hands, of course. If you're just taking pop shots with him, you're not going to be too successful. Some of these killers do take a lot of skill and a lot of learning to get a handle on, and then they become more balanced, I guess, against more Swifts or whatever. But that's my opinion. Those are my takes. Let me know if you have any other different opinions. If any of you say Kaneki is balanced, you're banned. I don't like that guy. I hate that guy. He's always bugged. He's always got something going on. Number one Kaneki hater. Even though they're fine. You guys are fine. I just don't like Kaneki all the time. Not my favorite. Let me know who you think is the most balanced killer, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.